Hi everyone, I'm back again. In this video I'm going to be talking even more about men in corsets. A lot of you corset fans are probably already familiar with the video about Pandora Gore and her collection of corsets. If you haven't seen it before, I'll put it up in this corner. But in that video, she was talking about Fakir Musafar and how he was initially inspired to start waist training because of certain tribes. And at first I thought she said Inca tribes of Peru, but I couldn't really find any information on it. And then suddenly, when the movie Avatar came out by James Cameron, then the fashions of the Navi were actually inspired by the Dinka tribes of Sudan. And so I started looking up that, and lo and behold, the men did wear very, very tight corsets. They were actually called Malual, and they were actually constructed on them, and they didn't take it off for many, many years at a time. The color of the beads they wore actually signified what age group they were in. So if they were seen wearing red and black beads, they would be between the ages of 15 and 25. If they were the ages of 25 and 30, the men would be wearing pink and purple beads. And if the men were wearing beads that were yellow, then that meant that they were over the age of 30 and therefore they were allowed to marry. The females also wore beads called alawa without the M. They were much looser and worn more around the neck as a very elaborate necklace almost, as opposed to a very tight corset. And some women occasionally did wear very tight corset types as well, and those would be cut off at marriage. These corsets were made out of glass beads threaded onto thin fibers that were woven together to make a more strong garment. And they actually did use very stiff pieces of wood and metal to make the spines of the corset. The height of the spine also signified the man's wealth and status in the tribe. So the higher the spine was in the back, the more wealthy he was and the more cows he had, so the more he would be able to pay for a bride when it came time to marry. These corsets were actually fashioned right onto the man when he became the appropriate age group. So he would wear this corset day in and day out, never taking it off until he reached the next age group. Next, I'm going to go back to the Cavaliers that I had mentioned in the previous video. It is true that many horsemen and soldiers did wear corsets underneath their uniforms to give them that smooth, streamlined effect and help them fit into their old corsets when, that middle-age spread started to happen. But also, somebody had given me a tip that these corsets also protected their kidneys. And you can see this still today when you see some horse riders wearing kidney belts, or especially motorcycle riders wearing kidney belts. Kidney belts today can still be seen with vertical stays to keep the tension and to prevent the belt from riding up onto the upper torso and keep it into the lower torso where it belongs. These corsets are a little bit different. They're lower in the front and then they come up on the back, but their purpose is still the same. So some of you who ride motorcycles already know that if you're not wearing a belt and you go over some very rough terrain for a long period of time, you'll get some lower back pain, and in very severe situations, you can actually have bruising of your kidneys and have blood in your urine. But wearing a kidney belt actually prevents this by increasing the abdominal pressure and preventing your organs from bumping around. So that actually does save your kidneys. So in this situation, yes, a corset does help more than harm. The last example that I want to address is probably the most obvious one, those being men wearing corsets specifically to have a more female form. Now, I didn't mention this in the previous Men in Corsets video because I thought it was pretty obvious, but what I had failed to mention was what are my opinions of this. And really, I'm going to be quite candid here. I have absolutely no problem with men wearing women's corsets or women's clothes. I believe that anybody should wear whatever they're comfortable with. I'm part Scottish and the man I'm dating is part Scottish as well, and I'm always interested in men wearing kilts. And the last time I went to the Highland Games, I thought it was so much fun, the guys walking around in their traditional attire. But in North America, largely it's seen as very girlish to be wearing a kilt. It is sort of something that they would not normally do just because they would seen as wearing a skirt rather than a kilt, and I don't think that's right. I think if girls are able to wear pants, then guys should be able to wear kilts or skirts all the time. Also, with the feminine movement in the 60s, with the casting away of the bras and the corsets and the girdles and the rise of Twiggy in fashion, the fashionable form became less of a very feminine hourglass and more of a very skinny, straight up and down, almost like a little boy's figure. Now, I'm not trying to bash any girls that have a boyish figure, because up till 5 years ago, I pretty much had the perfect little boy's figure, and I couldn't understand why all the girls were so envious of me because I had such a high metabolism, and yet none of the guys were really attracted to me because I didn't have these, ample curves that they're designed to be attracted to. So I thought that was just kind of funny how, what the girls want is kind of not what the guys want and vice versa. But anyway, I'm digressing. Case in point, girls, wear whatever you want. I'm not forcing you to wear a corset. You can go without one. Guys, you can wear what you want. I'm not forcing you to not wear a corset because it's feminine. You can wear whatever you want. Actually, I think if I were a guy, I would be in drag, because being a girl is really fun. It is. The body is like a blank canvas and you can decorate it any way you want, and honestly, I think people should have fun. You only have one body, and as long as you're doing something that's safe for it and you're keeping yourself healthy, go nuts. Like, do whatever you want. Do whatever, helps you express yourself best. One man that I admire and I actually emulate is Patrick Swayze. Not just in general, but especially in the movie To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything of Julie Newmar, because in the beginning of the movie you can actually see him pulling up a bustier or a fashion corset. And in the movie, people thought that because he was gay or effeminate or dressed in drag that he was a weak person, but no. Even though he was in women's attire, he fought for women's rights. He was a career girl. He encouraged the little girl to get her mind out of the kitchen and off of just boys, and to think bigger, and to, be equal with the boys and be able to work alongside them. He also fought against domestic abuse and sexual harassment. So that, I think, I wish I could be half the woman that Patrick Swayze was in that movie. So that's all for this video. I'll talk to you next time, guys. Bye. But no, he was able to dress in feminine attire, and he was